Hola, welcome to Lección 2. Algunas frases útiles. In this lesson, we're going to look at some ways to reduce the amount of English that we use in the classroom. To achieve this objective, you're going to examine examples of courtesy and classroom management expressions. You're going to match up some of these expressions with their English equivalents. And finally, you're going to practice using the expressions in real-life scenarios. First, we'll start with la cortesía. When you want or need something, you say please by saying por favor. When you want to express thanks, you say gracias. An appropriate response to gracias is de nada. When you want someone's attention, you can say excuse me by saying perdón or disculpe. You can also use these words if you make a small mistake. If you make a more serious mistake, you can say lo siento or lo siento mucho. If people are standing close together and you want to pass through, you say con permiso. When you didn't hear or don't understand what someone has said, you can say one of three things to have them repeat. ¿Cómo? Otra vez, por favor. Repita, por favor. If someone is speaking too quickly, you can also say más despacio, por favor. Ojo. Beware. Que literally means what? Saying this is considered rude, though. And now for some practice. Look at each picture and decide which phrase to use from the word bank for each one. Pause the recording while you work. As you may have noticed, some of the examples have more than one option. So how did you do? And now for some more practice. In this practice activity, decide what you would say in each situation. Pause the recording while you work. How did you do? Again, you'll notice that there is more than one option for some of the situations. And now for the second part. Algunas frases útiles para la clase. On the left, you'll see the chat box. Este es el chat. Your instructor may say, miren el chat, when they want you to look at the chat box. On the right, you'll see the annotation tools. At the top, you'll see the pen, el boli. Este es el boli. Your instructor may say, tomen un boli, when he or she wants you to write something on the whiteboard or annotate on a PowerPoint. In the center, you see los punteros. Estos son los punteros. Your instructor might say, usen un puntero, when he or she wants you to signal something or show something in the share space. When you're using the pen, it's a good idea to change the arrow on the left signal on the left for the blunt end. It's easier to read things you write when you don't use the arrow. Here you see an example of a virtual classroom. On the left, at the bottom, you'll see archivos. Aquí subo archivos. Your instructor may say, baje el archivo, if he or she wants you to download a file. In the center, you'll see la pizarra. Esta es la pizarra. Your instructor may say, mire la pizarra, if he or she wants you to look at the board. Then in the bottom right, you'll see el botón del silencio. Así nos ponemos en silencio. Your instructor may ask you, ¿estás silenciado?, if he or she sees your lips moving but can't hear you. And now for some practice. In this activity, you'll match each verb in column A with its logical predicate in column B. One verb is used twice. Pause the recording while you work. How'd you do? Número 1. Usen un puntero. Número 2. Bajen el archivo. Número 3. Miren la pizarra y miren el chat. Número 4. Tomen un boli. Y número 5. Está silenciado. And now for activity 4. In this practice activity, we have some scenarios. Read each one and decide what your instructor would say in each case. Also, how could your instructor be more polite? Pause the recording while you work. How did you do? The answer to the question, how could your instructor be more polite, would be to add por favor to the end of each phrase. For example, bajen este archivo, por favor. Or, usen el puntero, por favor. Por favor doesn't work with number 2, though. Está silenciado is not a command. They're stating that they can't hear you. And now for the last part. When you don't understand, you say, no entiendo. If you don't know the answer to a question, you say, no sé. If you have a question, you say, tengo una pregunta. If you don't know how to say something in Spanish, you say, ¿cómo se dice brother en español? And finally, if you don't know what a Spanish word like nosotros means, you say, ¿qué significa nosotros? And now for some practice. Activity 5. Read each situation and decide what you would say for each one. Pause the recording while you work. How did you do? Excelente trabajo. In class, we're going to talk about the following questions. What are some ways to ask for help or clarification? Second, how can you make your requests more polite? And last, why is it important to reduce the amount of English we use in class? That's all for now. Hasta luego.